The gavel falls, a $893 lesson in friendship, ferrets, and a flattened cowboy hat. The air in the television studio was thick with a tense, artificial chill, a stark contrast to the heated human drama about to unfold under the blazing studio lights. This was the arena of Judge Judy, a place where fractured friendships and financial squabbles were laid bare with surgical precision and unflinching candor. The plaintiff, a woman named Leslie Mochman, sat with a posture of weary resolve, her face a map of maternal disappointment and financial irritation. Across from her, the defendant, a young woman named Melissa, shifted uncomfortably, her demeanor a volatile cocktail of defensiveness and indignation. Their story, a tangled web woven from decades of affection and recent acrimony, was about to be dissected by the woman in the black robe whose sharp eyes missed nothing. "Ms. Mochman," Judge Judy began, her voice cutting through the silence like a blade. "According to these papers, you've known the defendant since she was in kindergarten." Leslie's response was a soft, almost sorrowful, "Yes." The judge continued, piecing together the foundation of this crumbling relationship. "She was a friend of your daughter's." "That's correct," Leslie affirmed, a ghost of a smile touching her lips at the memory of simpler times. "Daughter's name is Jennifer," Judge Judy stated, brandishing the court documents. "Yes. See, I read papers," she declared, a hint of dry triumph in her tone, as Leslie let out a small, choked chuckle, the sound swallowed by the overwhelming gravity of their present situation. This was not a simple case of unpaid rent. This was the painful unraveling of a bond that had spanned a lifetime, a story of a second mother and a surrogate daughter now locked in a bitter clash over money, promises, and a horrifically crushed cowboy hat. The narrative, as Judge Judy expertly drew it out, began with a gesture of trust and familial warmth. Leslie, having known Melissa since the young woman was a mere 5-year-old playing with her daughter Jennifer, decided to open her home, or more specifically, a rental property she owned, to the 2 young women and a third roommate, a young man named Ben. It was meant to be a perfect supportive setup. "And you moved in," Judge Judy confirmed, her gaze shifting to Melissa. "Yes," Melissa replied. But the idyllic vision was quickly shattered. The problem, it turned out, was Leslie's own flesh and blood. Her daughter Jennifer was, in Leslie's own blunt and mortifying admission, a slob. The word hung in the air, a public condemnation from a mother who had reached her absolute limit. "Yep, sure was, still is," Leslie confirmed with a sigh that spoke volumes of years of frustration, a sentiment met with a ripple of knowing chuckles from the studio audience. "Was and is," Judge Judy echoed, a wry smile playing on her lips. "And so, you evicted her," the judge continued, "told her, go find someplace else to live with your cats. Or clean up," she added, and Leslie finished the sentence. "Or clean up." "Good for you," Judge Judy commended, a rare note of approval in her voice that seemed to momentarily bolster Leslie's spirit. The menagerie was revealed. 3 cats, 2 dogs, and 2 ferrets. A veritable traveling circus of chaos that had turned Leslie's rental property into what she implied was a biohazard zone. This maternal eviction, however necessary, was the first crack in the foundation, the initial seismic shift that would lead to the total collapse of the household's harmony. With Jennifer and her animal entourage banished, only Leslie, the steadfast Ben, and Melissa remained in the house. But peace did not follow. The financial underpinnings of their arrangement began to crumble. And there were some problems, Judge Judy stated, moving the story forward. "But whatever the problems were, you say that she owes you some rent." "Yes," Leslie stated firmly. The reason for the debt was simple and damning. Because you moved out, right? Well, she evicted me, Melissa clarified, a note of wounded pride in her voice. Judge Judy pounced on the core issue. Because you weren't paying the rent. Correct, Melissa admitted. The word a quiet concession of her financial failure. But the rent was only one thread in this tangled tale. There was another, more emotionally charged element. A promised ski trip to Vail. This was not just any vacation. It was a cherished family tradition, an annual pilgrimage of snow and bonding that Leslie had extended to include Melissa, weaving her even tighter into the family fabric. And you purchased airline tickets, Judge Judy recounted, and you had promised to pay her if she bought your ticket. The plan was for them to go as a family, a unit. Leslie, with the unwavering trust born of knowing someone since they were a child, had fronted the $262 for Melissa's non-refundable airline ticket. I mean, I've known her since she was 5 years old, Leslie explained, her voice laced with the sting of that broken trust. So I have no reason to believe that she wouldn't follow through and pay what she said she would. What followed was a dizzying, maddening dance of indecision and pettiness. He said, she said, spiral that Judge Judy was determined to untangle. Jennifer, fuming from her eviction, declared she wouldn't go on the trip. Melissa, whose attendance was contingent on her friends, then backed out as well, telling her boss she could work that week after all. Then Jennifer, in a classic flip-flop, changed her mind and decided she would go. But Melissa, now committed to her work schedule, could not then reverse course again. It was a chaotic ping-pong match of wounded feelings and capricious decisions, with Leslie, the ticket purchaser, stuck squarely in the middle, her money and her patience evaporating. I told Melissa, Leslie explained, trying to impose order on the chaos. The bottom line is the ticket is yours in your name, and you can use it again some other time. It's not refundable, but it's a reusable ticket, and she still owed me the money for it. I mean, I can't use it. It's not in my name. Judge Judy, her focus laser sharp, cut to the heart of the matter. She pointed a finger at Melissa, her voice firm and uncompromising. You wanted to go on a trip with them. You said, please pay for the ticket because I want to go, but I can't pay for it right now. Is that what you told her? Melissa conceded. Originally, yes. So she bought the ticket, the judge summarized. She's out the money for this ticket, $262 is. Then you and your friend and everybody else got annoyed, right? Your friend got annoyed. She wasn't gonna go, you weren't gonna go. There's only one innocent person, that's her. She's out $260. But Melissa, feeling cornered and defensive, pushed back. It wasn't my fault that they got into a dispute, and Jennifer then changed her mind. Was I gonna go and ski by myself? She pleaded, seeking validation for her position. This prompted one of Judge Judy's signature, no-nonsense life lessons. Why not? The judge retorted, her expression one of pure incredulity. Would you want to go and ski by yourself? Melissa asked, as if the idea were unthinkable. Judge Judy launched into a monologue that was both hilarious and brutally pragmatic. Listen, let me explain something to you. I don't go on top of a mountain where it's 4 degrees below zero, where I'm petrified to get to the bottom of that mountain, when I could be at the bottom of the mountain sitting in a lodge, drinking a large grog. So I don't go on top of a mountain. I wouldn't ski by myself, and I wouldn't ski with the whole Coxie army. That doesn't mean that you can't go skiing by yourself. You can go skiing by yourself. You never know who you'll meet if you go skiing, right? Lots of nice people go skiing. The audience erupted in laughter and agreement, the sound washing over Melissa, who sat, visibly unmoved by this philosophy of independent travel. Just when it seemed the case would be a simple matter of the rent and the ticket, Melissa unveiled her counterclaim, a series of allegations that elevated the dispute from the merely financial to the bizarrely personal. She described a scene of profound violation during her eviction, While she was at work, she claimed, Leslie had broken into her bedroom and taken it upon herself to pack all of Melissa's belongings. The coldness of the act was compounded by the message left on her voicemail. It's trash day today, and the scavengers are out. I suggest you come and pick up your things off the driveway. But the true centerpiece of her grievance, the moment that sucked the air out of the room, involved her cherished cowboy hats. Melissa, it was revealed, was a connoisseur of Western wear, a woman who took the integrity of her headwear with the utmost seriousness. She crushed my cowboy hat and ruined this one as well, Melissa declared, her voice trembling with a mixture of rage and genuine heartbreak. She explained her meticulous preservation method. The hats were stored in special sweater boxes, positioned upside down to maintain their perfect shape. Leslie, in her hurried packing, had allegedly thrown them into a box, irrevocably crushing one and putting a deep, unforgivable crease in another. I can't wear that, Melissa lamented, holding up the damaged goods as if presenting a wounded child. Nor can I wear this, it's got crease. People would laugh at me if I put this thing on and wore it. They would laugh at me. This was the moment the proceedings swerved into the surreal. Judge Judy, her curiosity piqued by the sheer passion of the hat testimony, commanded her bailiff Bird to bring her the evidence. Bird, would you get me the black hat, please? The courtroom watched in rapt silence as the bailiff delivered the afflicted headwear into the judge's hands. Judge Judy examined the black hat with the intense scrutiny of a diamond appraiser. Melissa pointed out the fatal flaws. This one has creases all over it. Judge Judy's initial diagnosis was delivered with deadpan gravity. Oh, God. Melissa drove her point home, and it's completely lost its shape. The judge's response was a masterpiece of comedic understatement. God, you better go to the doctor. It's got creases all over it. She then called for the second hat, the one Melissa claimed was crushed, as Judge Judy turned it over in her hands. The audience leaned forward, awaiting her verdict. She looked at the misshapen felt, then directly at Melissa, and delivered the crushing, common-sense blow that defined her show. You better get a life, madam. The studio exploded in laughter. The Great Cowboy Hat Crisis, a centerpiece of Melissa's emotional distress, had been dismissed in an instant as utter nonsense. Judge Judy handed the hats back to Bird with a dismissive instruction. Give her back the hat. But Melissa was not finished. She had one more card to play, the tale of the paint-speckled car. She claimed that while Leslie and her son were painting the house, wind had blown overspray all over her brand new car, covering it in a constellation of tiny white specks. Leslie's response to this new allegation was one of pure, unvarnished shock. This is the first I've heard about it is today. I didn't know anything about it until today. This or the cowboy hats. It was a devastating admission that painted Melissa's counterclaim as a last-minute fabricated retaliation. Judge Judy had already moved on, her mind made up. She zeroed back in on the core issue of financial responsibility, and she found her moment of perfect, poetic justice. She fixed Melissa with a gaze that could freeze fire. Just a second. How dare you pay $189 for a hat and not pay her rent? She demanded, her voice rising with righteous indignation. Melissa tried to explain that the hat was purchased long before the rent dispute, but Judge Judy was having none of it. Just a second. How dare you pay $189 for a hat and not give her the money that you owed her for rent? The point was not about the timeline. It was about priorities and character. It was about a woman who valued her own appearance and possessions, enough to spend a small fortune on a cowboy hat, but who could not find the basic decency to honor a debt to a woman who had been like a mother to her. The judgment was swift and decisive. The $630 for unpaid rent and the $262 for the unused reusable airline ticket were added together. $893 is what you owe her. Is that right, Bird? Judge Judy confirmed. That's absolutely right, Judge, the bailiff replied. The gavel fell with a definitive bang that echoed the finality of their broken friendship. Judgments for the plaintiff for the amount of $893. Your counterclaim is dismissed. It's nonsense. Leslie Mochman had won, but it was a victory that likely tasted of ash and lost memories. She had recovered her money, but she had lost a girl she had known since kindergarten. Melissa left the courtroom, not just $893 poorer, but publicly shamed for her financial irresponsibility and her trivial complaints. The lesson for every listener and viewer is stark and universally applicable. Money and friendship are a volatile mix. A relationship built over decades can be shattered in an instant by broken financial promises and a failure to take responsibility for one's own obligations. Trust, once broken, is incredibly difficult to repair, and no amount of justification or deflection, whether about ruined cowboy hats or paint-speckled cars, can erase the fundamental wrong of not paying what you owe. The true cost of this case was not the $893s. It was the loss of a lifelong bond, a sobering reminder that when you mix affection with finance, you must be prepared to handle both with integrity or risk losing everything.